Welcome back to the Damji Show, and this episode I got my favorite guest of all time. It's my sister, Rahima Blaza, and we're talking about the new ventures that we're working on, how she got started in renovations, how she's been smashing it in the world of co-living. She's able to make returns on properties right now, even with 8% interest rates. You gotta hear the new strategy that she's working on. It's been absolutely a game changer for us and the investors that we work with, and we find out why the hell she wears $1,000 loafers to construction sites. So make sure you guys stick around, like the video, and leave my sister a comment. So how happy are you that we're not shooting that TV show anymore?
You know, the TV show for me was like a mixed bag, right? It was a lot of stress, but with that stress came the ability to hang out with you all day, which was fun. So I enjoyed that. It pushed my limits. And so I realized that, yeah, hey, we actually can build a house in 60 days. That was fun.
Mm-hmm. What do you think your best thing, the best thing that you got out of doing the TV show, and the worst thing about making a TV show was?
Okay, so I'd say the best thing about making the TV show was, as a result of watching myself on season 1, I lost 80 pounds.
You were over it?
Well, when I remember the first day we started filming, I looked at the camera guy and I said to him, is there a way to make me look skinnier on camera? And he says, absolutely. Actually, I actually have a special filter that I'm going to put on you. So whenever you're on, like whenever I'm filming a scene, just make sure that you're aligned to my camera. And I got you.
And he was totally full of shit.
Completely 100% full of shit. Because I watched episode 1 and that day I called him and went, what the F? You promised me you had a filter. And he laughed and said, are you kidding? How could I promise you such a thing?
What did you think?
Yeah, I was...
It's not Snapchat. It was a television show.
Look, I don't even know what a Snapchat is. So I just thought, I got bamboozled, right? But yeah, as a result of the TV show, I got in better health, which was a good thing for me.
Totally. So what was the worst?
I can't say there was any bad situations there.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, now it's been a year and a half since we stopped filming, and I have really nothing bad to say. It was fun.
It was fun. I think the hardest part for me was the necessity for the overshooting, like all the extra stuff that doesn't make it to the show, and like, you know, trying to run a business or multiple businesses at the same time, it's not easy to do. And if production doesn't understand that your life is, you still got to do these other things, and they just want you to be on set 8 hours a day, and then you're supposed to continue on with the rest of your life.
Right.
It doesn't really work.
Yeah.
So I think for me, if there was a way to make it so that they shot what they needed instead of shoot everything. And how many times did they have us, not leave town or come back from out of town for a scene that they just needed to have, or we need to get this beam. We need to see, we got to see you pick the color of this cabinet. Otherwise the show won't work. And then it never makes it, right? So there was always a way that they could cut around things, do things, and it didn't need to be as crazy as it was, but you live and learn, right?
Yeah, for you and I, it was a different situation because the renovations were my business. So I was already there. And I had to pick the kitchen cabinet color. Or actually, I already picked the kitchen cabinet color, and then I would say to you, pick that one.
Yep.
Right? So it was different. There wasn't necessarily your business in the renovation, but I was happy to be there because I actually had to run the renovation.
Yeah. So we've worked together a long time from Canada. Obviously, we were doing wholesale out there. You were renovating stuff. We got our asses handed to us in the 08.
Yep.
Crisis, and all the things that happened over there, and now we've built Keighley and all the things are going. I want to just kind of rewind back to the days, right, when we were getting beat up in real estate, because people ask, how did you and your sister get into real estate together? How did you guys start working together? Do you remember what those first projects were?
They were the condo buildings, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We would buy. I remember we would put a deposit down on a building, a big deposit, and then we were racing against the clock to close as many of the units as we could so that we could pay the person we bought the building from, and then the last 10 were profit.
Yeah,
about-
ish.
yeah.
Sometimes like four or five
Right,
were profit.
right.
But it was such an interesting thing to do, right? So we were in the world of condo conversions. For those of you that don't know, we were buying these old apartment buildings and renovating them, and then selling them off, basically floor by floor. And so you'd get your first floor done, second floor done, third floor done, and then the last like 4 or 5 units of the third floor would be what you would make. And so it was this constant just cat and mouse game of trying to pay all the bills, pay all the trades, buy all the material, and keep it pushing. But it was definitely a difficult task to do. So what's your opinion on doing these large scale projects versus smaller stuff? Because even now, I just recently invested in a apartment syndication where they were going to go in and basically do what we did, other than like individually titled. They were just renovating and then repositioning, and it completely blew up in our face. And so the whole thing, like the people that got it, that I bought into the deal with, we bought the deal, leverage ran out before the time frame of the leverage ran out, and they wouldn't refinance us because of the way that the market had turned. And so these larger scale projects, these bigger buildings, they tend to be such that you can make big swings of profit on one deal, but you could go completely broke because of it, right? So what are your thoughts about doing these larger projects? And what would you prefer to do, a larger one, or do you enjoy doing the smaller deals that you're doing now?
Okay, so I think I'm going to sort of dissect what you said. I think you can have your ass handed to you and go bankrupt on a small deal too. It really, leverage is leverage, right?
Yep.
But I think the difference is when it's a really big project, you have all these different people involved. And so if somebody misses the boat, if somebody's not showing up, if somebody's not watching over, like, why did you run out of time? Why wasn't the project finished before you had to refi it, right? There's a bunch of whys. And usually if you were to dissect that whole situation, it's like, well, this guy didn't show up or this guy didn't finish.
Because I think when they were giving us the perspective on the investment I made, they were supposed to have vacated the buildings and had started renovations a year prior.
And did they? No.
No, it was just, lackadaisical for when to get started. Things were cash flowing because they were getting in rent, so they weren't super
worried about
getting people out. Plus they had other projects that were going, so in their brains they were like, oh, we can hold it. Right. And so there was no looming situation around the corner because they thought getting a refinance wasn't going to be problematic. But then the market changes and the
market changed very fast.
Very fast. The same thing happened in 2008 though.
Yeah. It was 30 days. In 30 days,
it wasn't
changed.
really 30 days. It felt like 30 days to us, but it wasn't 30 days.
It didn't feel like 30 days?
No,
it wasn't 30 days?
It felt like 30 days, but it was
I feel like the banks just
closed
closed up.
It was over 6 months, and then it was about a year from start to finish from when it all came crashing down. I can see how it felt like 30 days to you. It did feel like 30 days to me, but it wasn't. It was just about a year. It was a year from start to finish from when the signs started coming out and we were like, uh-oh, to when we were done.
Yeah.
It was just under a year.
Wow. Yeah, it felt like 30 days. It was so fast in my head.
So you've been really looking at affordable housing these days
affordable housing, it's like it sounds like an oxymoron, right? Is there a really affordable housing? But
it's
a solution.
Yeah.
For people who are considered to be the working poor, right? You have a job, you make an hourly wage, but there's no way that wage is going to be able to put you in a situation where you can live outside of your car. You just can't. Rents are just too high. Inflation is just too high. So giving somebody an option to say, hey, you can pay weekly and there's no credit check and there's no huge deposit. You're just gonna, $250 gets you this room. The room is equipped with a bathroom. You have your own heating and cooling. You can heat and cool your room as you please. Your utilities are taken care of. You have a bathroom to yourself. You have a television to yourself. You have a bed. You have a nightstand. You have a closet. Go.
Right.
To give that dignity to somebody and say, hey, this is affordable for you. Take it for as long as you need it, and build your life. That's huge. I think that's a really big step into giving people who have fallen on hard times a step to independence again.
So what do you think is holding cities back from introducing more of that?
I don't even think a lot of the cities are aware that that's even a possibility. I think they're thinking in large scale, like how do we get a large scale situation where people can, maybe we take over a commercial building and we try to renovate it. But again, you have all these different figures involved.
Well, I know in Los Angeles here, they were trying to build affordable housing units, and the government was doing the job.
Okay.
So they had city land. There was a lot of stuff that they thought they had figured out. The ultimate cost for the city of Los Angeles to build a 1-bedroom housing unit was $900,000.
Come on.
That's what it worked out to. It was like under 900, but it was 800 and something thousand bucks.
Come on.
Which made no sense,
Come
right?
on.
Especially
How could that
because the
even,
land is vended
like
in.
who did they get to do the bid out?
It's
Was
just-
it just all mafia? Like, I don't understand.
It's all waste. When you've got that many departments, when you have that many
That's what it
moving
is.
pieces, and you've got folks that don't have a skin in the game, it's not their money,
Right.
Right? It's taxpayer dollars. And then again, government contracts. Who wins the contract? How does that contract get won? What's the process? I'm not saying that there's large scale corruption out there, but
You're not saying it, I'm going to say it. There's probably large scale corruption out there.
who got the contract and why did that person
Right.
win the contract?
Right.
Right? Why is it $900,000 to build a 1-bedroom unit for a studio? Like, how does that make any sense?
Come on. That's bananas. That's just nuts.
Private sector always finds the way to innovate and make it a better, more efficient process. The government doesn't have enough insight or creativity to make it happen. So you're building these affordable housing units, co-living in Arizona right now.
Yep.
You've been doing it for other investors. What do you think one of the biggest hurdles is for you right now in that model?
It's funny that we're talking about this. Probably getting the cities to approve. But we have spoken to some councilmen in Arizona, and they're excited. We've spoken to the fire department, and they're excited. We've talked to different agencies within government of Arizona, and they're excited. So I'm hoping that all that excitement, if I do end up hitting a wall with the city, I can pull in some of those councilmen and say, hey, I need some of that excitement and vigor to help me push this through.
What's holding them back, though? What do you think is the...
The rules and bureaucracy. Well, all of a sudden now, did you know that there was ever a law that says, like, for example, the city of Mesa, you're only allowed to have 4 people live in a house?
I didn't know that, no.
Right? I mean, it's such an archaic, but it's printed somewhere, and so they pull this law out and say, well, here's the law. But what if myself and my husband decided to have 6 kids?
Right.
So what happens then? I mean, this law is not enforceable. So it's a matter of saying, listen, I understand that you're worried or afraid.
Well, most of I don't know if you've seen any of these, but most of the CCNRs, that's the bylaws, the rules for most subdivisions in Arizona don't allow for colored people to live in them.
Well, right. So
It's actually in the CCNRs.
Right.
I've read them. And unless they're living there in an employment capacity in their own quarters, so they had to be segregated. And this is like, we're talking about the 1950s and 60s when these rules were enacted, right? So this is like Jim Crow era, where, of course, slavery was gone, but they were still doing everything that they could to redline and segregate the population. And so they were creating these housing CCNRs to try to create, try to enforce segregation.
Sure. Yeah, I understand that. And
so a lot of those rules aren't enforceable, but
Right.
You pick and choose. The community will pick and choose depending on what's going on. And so the title insurance companies they overwrite those CCNRs, knowing that there's no longer a way for that to be enforceable because of fair housing laws.
Right. I mean, I think we just have to propel, and as if and when these objections come up, find a way around it, find a solution. Worst case scenario, get the press involved and say, hey, look, there's a problem in this city, and this is what we're running up against. We need some help. We need this. We need a spotlight put on this so that we can get this pushed through.
Yeah. You spend a lot of time in Europe. You love traveling in Europe. And I think, for those of you that don't know, Rahima has been flirting with the idea of moving to Portugal at some point in her future. And so,
I'm not sure it's flirting. I think it's like a full-on love affair.
yeah. So do you think that, what do you take from, the way that they're living in Europe that we could adopt here that could potentially help things in the United States?
Well, generally in Europe, you stay as a family unit from birth to death. So, for example, we lived with our parents, and then as we grow up and sort of educate ourselves, and our parents, and that happened. I lived with my mom until my mom lived with me. I lived with my parents until my parents lived with me.
Yeah.
Right. So I made enough money to say, okay, I'm ready to buy a house, and so you guys are going to come and live with me now. That's still very much how the Europeans live. There's no concept of, well, you're 18 now, and so there's the door, find your way. It's like, okay, so you're 18 now. It's another birthday. What are we doing? What's your next step in life? But there's never that pressure to say bye.
Do you think it's like America needs like a value change with respect to how kids? Because I mean, it's already happening right now. There's countless news articles out there about millennials leaving the nest much later than our generation, Generation
yep.
X, right? For instance, like for us, it was still like 18 years old, you're out, buddy, or start paying rent.
Right.
But now what happened is because of what happened in 2008
yeah.
and affordability, people starting their families later, all of the things, we saw that millennials didn't leave home, some of them until their 30s.
But why leave home? I mean, there's an epidemic of loneliness out there. There's a social anxiety the levels of social anxiety amongst our youth are higher than I've ever read about or ever seen. There's all these issues. Why leave home? Why not just stay a unit? Our parents are lonely.
Well, what do you think makes people want to leave? Is it like, you think it's the forcing children to go away to college and giving them that independence right out the gate and making them go out and do that and start to live alone and start to have their thing? And now, they spent 4 or 5 years away in college, and it's really difficult from that. You gained your independence. Nobody's telling you when to leave, when to come, what to eat, how to live, all the things. And so, do you think college is the first thing that has kind of started that domino effect?
Maybe, because I think the United States is one of the few countries in the world that expect your children to leave home to go to further their education. In Canada, it's actually frowned upon, right? I mean, other provinces, we grew up in the province of Alberta. When you wanted to go to medical school, you couldn't really apply outside the province of Alberta.
Right.
Because there took maybe 2 or 3 non-provincial students into their program. I mean, they expected you, and you were rewarded to stay home.
Right.
Right? Your fees were lower. Everything's sort of balanced out if you stay. This is one of the only countries I've seen that is like they propel their children to leave. And I'm not sure why. So when you say, is it a values change? Perhaps that's what it is. Maybe we just need to understand that the unit doesn't need to disintegrate or separate at a certain age.
The thing is I seen is that, like, if you look at it from the demographics of the age, right? Baby boomers had the Gen Xers, and then we are looking at it from the perspective of, okay, for them, college was massively important. And it was the crowning achievement for somebody in that age group, in that demographic, to go off and go to college, get a college degree, come back from college and have a beautiful family, right? But there was also the independence that the parents got once the kids left, and they got to have a renaissance in their adulthood, right? Because kids are gone now. They get to travel, maybe they get to do a little bit more. So they
get to get divorced
or whatever, right? There's a couple of things there's a bunch of things that could happen, right? But yeah, a lot of people staying in unhappy relationships because of children. And so if they got to, if it's time for the kid to go and it's like, okay, well, they're going off to college, now I can finally leave this jerk. well, then what's wrong with that? At a level, if it's somebody's happiness because they've been sitting in a relationship or staying in a relationship for children that is unhappy or unfulfilling.
I can guarantee you that if you were to interview those children, they would have said, if I knew my parents were unhappy and I would have preferred them to have separated well before they did, right? I mean, I don't think anybody who stays in a marriage for the children is doing it for the children. They're doing it because they're not ready to leave. Because you're not doing anything for the children if you're unhappy.
Right. Okay. So the way that right now you're structuring investments, it's pretty interesting because we got an 8% average mortgage rate out there for investment properties, and right now you're finding cash flow. You're still able to cash flow these.
Cash flow at like 14%. Like the cash flow is fantastic.
What do you think are some of the secrets to being able to have a successful co-living home? Like what are the things that you're looking for?
It's location. Definitely location.
So break it down.
So if you are, I almost want you if you're an investor to think about it. So for example, when we did one for you, right? You bought us a house right across the street from a college, and you said, "Oh, I'm going to definitely rent to college students." And I remember saying to you, "I don't think you're going to rent to college students, but I think you're definitely going to be able to rent to the people who live around this area that help facilitate the college." Only because as a parent of somebody who's of college age, I would have a much easier time sending my child to college knowing she's living within the college walls, right? Instead of outside. And I think that's what happened. Your rooms all got rented out by people who were working in the college or one of the businesses that facilitates the college. So finding an area where there's work opportunities is definitely number one. Location is the number one rule of real estate, right? So the number one rule of this type of real estate, it's not the same.
It's not the same as like a
single
high
family
end or a luxury location. Right. It has very little to do with that. In fact, it's about where's all the jobs are.
Yeah, it's the direct opposite of that. All the things that would make a house not a good flip in the traditional sense that I'm going to sell this to a single family is the exact opposite of why.
So what are those things?
So access to jobs, access to transit, walkability, public transportation, walkability. You have to be able to walk to your grocery store, because I really only allow for 50% of parking. So if I have a 7 or 8 suiter, there's only going to be 3 or 4 parking spots. There's just no way for me to give you 8 spots. So walkability, close to transit, close to work centers, close to job centers, these warehouse types works like Amazon, work centers, things like this, big plus. What else? What else would you say? There needs to be, it has to be there can't be an HOA governing it, because then you've got the neighbors all piping in as to who's living here. You don't want it to be in too high end of a neighborhood, same reason why. I mean, those are basically it. It's location. It's just a different set of parameters for the location.
Right. Like C and D neighborhoods are typically the prime kind of area for it. So you can typically get your properties a lot cheaper than you would in a luxury neighborhood, right? So you get and if you can look for properties that are close to multifamily, close to commercial, close to busy roads or on busy roads, I mean, those things would be typically death for a flip.
Right. And also the things that worry us the most about flips, the challenge I was finding with flips in the last year has been the houses are so much older. They're all built in the 50s, 60s, 70s. And in Arizona, at that point, I have to redo the sewer line. It's just too old now. The material that they used then, it's either cast iron or it was bird stop, both of which have disintegrated into the earth now. So I have to redo the sewer line. I have to I put a new HVAC in. There's a very good chance I have to upgrade the electrical panel and the roof. Those are things, now that eats up all the profit.
Right.
This can no longer be just a plain aesthetic flip anymore, because there's too many high-end structural issues that I need to take care of, right? If I'm going to take care of all those issues, then I might as well make them better and be able to allow for more people to live in the property.
Why not buy new? Why not build new then?
We could. We're actually going to try that. We're going to build a brand new one, purpose built. If I'm going to purpose build it though, I'm going to try it for a 10-10.
And what things do you have to take into consideration for that?
Fire suppression. You have to make sure that you have fire suppression. After 8, you have to have fire suppression. So a sprinkler system in the house.
How much does that cost?
About 5,000.
$5,000 for the entire structure. So it's not that expensive.
It's not prohibitive. It's not
Yeah.
50 grand.
Yeah.
It's $5,000.
So the investors that you've been working with, because you have, the same investors that have been working with you for, almost a decade now.
Yeah, it's like the evolution of my investors, right? We have an idea and we say, hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? And there's an element of trust there, but they also see the vision.
Yeah, and I mean, there's been great returns. Of course, for the fix and flips, we would probably win 8 out of every 10, which is again pretty good. If you're batting 800 on your flips, you've done pretty good. But there's always those deals that kind of, they get away from you, right? You have to end up spending more money. They sit on the market longer.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, there was something about the house that made it more difficult to sell. And so those subjective variables that we really can't plan for, they are the things that typically come and throw the curveball at you that make the property unprofitable.
Right.
But when you're holding and you're cash flowing and you're buying for rent,
Yep.
something that you don't plan to exit for a while or ever.
And we've already budgeted for these big ticket items,
Right.
right? We've already budgeted for brand new sewer. We've already budgeted for a new panel and a new roof and new HVAC. So that's in the budget. Then a lot of those big surprises, they're eliminated.
So when you're doing that, right, and you're talking to investors about shifting their focus from fix and flip to cash
and hold,
flow,
yep.
what are some of the selling points for that?
I think what keeps people from leaving their money in a property is, well, they're saying, well, I don't want to leave my money in there for too long. I want to be able to keep going, right? So your strategy of buying and then refinancing, taking the money out and then doing it again takes care of that issue that they had, that objection, right?
So you free up the capital that you have trapped in the home,
Right.
so that you can go do another project.
Right, and a lot of people, they don't want to have the headache of taking care of tenants. So we offer a property management service. It takes care of the headache. It takes care of taking care of the phone calls or taking care of the dashboard. Whatever may be happening in that property is no longer the owner's responsibility, but rather the property management's responsibility.
What are some of the major drawbacks of having a rooming house?
Well, you've got 6 different or 7 different personalities living in one house.
What's the worst that you've seen so far?
Actually, I haven't seen too much. Poop is really it's the biggest thing, right? You've got issues with somebody losing a bowel movement, and there's poop.
And cleanliness,
right? Cleanliness,
and different types of people living in different
Yeah.
conditions, and so having
But even
individual
then
bathrooms
even
is
then it hasn't
really
been
helpful.
Really bad.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's some crumbs on the floor, but given the fact that these are 6 people who didn't know each other yesterday, they all live together now, nothing really terrible has happened.
Do you think that there's a benefit to having house rules posted somewhere in those
I
properties?
think that's definitely, no smoking, no drinking, no guests. But the company that we're using, PadSplit, for these particular, to help us rent these, they have those house rules set up on their website, on the dashboard. So they're continually reminded of the house rules. Now, we could ask for separate house rules, but they've pretty well covered, intoxication, inebriation. You can't have guests, overnight guests, things like that. It's covered.
The city of Los Angeles recently deemed that all these co-living properties are illegal hostels,
Based on what?
just based on the density, right? And the fact that people can come in and stay there on a weekly basis, right? Where
Okay.
like you would in a hostel,
Right.
you would for a hostel you rent it by the night or typically by the week,
Right.
and it's lower cost
Yeah.
than a hotel. It's typically in a residential area, not a commercial area. And so when the city of Los Angeles drove around and started seeing that there were greater density or higher densities in these buildings, they have rapidly gone to shut them down. What are your opinions about that?
But based on what? Like, do they just want the houses to get a different kind of license? Do they need them to apply
No.
for a different type of license that says now
No,
I'm a
they're
rooming
saying
house?
that this specific property doesn't have the appropriate density zoning for it.
So change the zoning. I mean, these are human lives we're speaking about. This is the difference between having somewhere to sleep tonight and not having somewhere to sleep tonight.
Right.
You haven't been able to come up with a solution that doesn't cost less than $900,000 for a studio apartment.
Right.
So if you don't have a solution, change the zoning. Cities grow, they evolve. This is the evolution of these cities now. You can't tell me that it's more important to follow some archaic rule than it is to have somebody have a bed under their head.
Right. I mean, it's interesting the money that they're spending to crack down on the co-living situation in the city of Los Angeles, where they won't spend any money on investigating or dealing with the squatter situation. I'll give you an example. There's a mansion out in Beverly Hills right now. It's still currently being occupied. There was somebody realized that the property was vacant. It was for sale. And the listing obviously showed that the house was vacant. So there wasn't, any clothes in the property. There was very minimal furniture, if any. And somebody saw that as an opportunity for them to take over the house. So they broke into the home and changed the locks and created a fake lease and then proceeded to throw nightly parties.
So is the property zoned for parties?
No.
So isn't that enough to close it down?
No. For whatever reason, not only does the police have nothing to say or do about it, they say it's a civil matter, nothing that we can do. They're not enforcing the noise complaints. They're not enforcing the issue that there's people lined up around the property to get inside at 4 o'clock in the morning. Everybody living in the neighborhood is losing their minds. These are, very high-end homes, $1 million neighborhood. There's a $10 million home on the same street as this property. And you can just imagine the property taxes that they pay. You can imagine the state taxes that they pay.
The
for
owner
income.
of this house, although they have no ability to take the house back, still has to pay the taxes on that property.
The owner is still paying the taxes on the property. The owner is still paying a lot. They're still having to pay the utilities for the squatter in the property.
But the lease is a forgery.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They're still on the hook to pay the property taxes. They're on the hook to pay for the utilities at the property. They tried to turn the utilities off. And the utility company said, nope, it's illegal. You have to keep the utilities on. And they're continuing to bill the current owner for those utilities.
See, that sounds crazy to me, right?
Do you think that it's a matter of politics? Do you think this
100%.
So,
and an allocation of resources, right? So where are you allocating your resources? How
where do you think the
allocating
problem
your
is? Is
resources?
it a thinking problem? Is it a creativity problem? Is it let's just find the easiest solution? Because if you think about it, I think when the county or the city looks and says, hey, look, we want to make sure that we give tenants a lot of rights.
Sure, that's a humane way of looking at a tenant, right?
Right.
You're looking at them with humanity and saying, I want to make sure that the slumlords of the past can't take advantage of you as a tenant.
Or price, massive price increases, right? So
right.
which is the argument for rent control here.
Sure.
That, if you have rented a property, for instance, the place that I used to live in Franklin Village,
Yeah.
that loft, I believe my rent was $1,800 a month there. And I had somebody living upstairs that I was charging $1,000 to.
Okay.
So my total monthly expense on that place was $800. Today, if you wanted to rent that exact unit, it's $5,600 a month.
So how did you get it so cheap?
It was the time. 2011 is when I moved in. So between 2011 and 2024, the rent increased from $1,800 to $5,600.
Wow.
Now, if I had stayed there, they would have only been able to increase the rent 3% a year. So I right now would probably be paying $2,400 at max in that unit, which again, the rents right now are closer to $6,000. So do you think there's something wrong with that? Should the government be able to hold a property owner hostage?
No, I think there's a time and place for government intervention. I think the market should be allowed to determine what a rent should be, because if $6,000 a month is not affordable, the property owner will have to find the level of rent that he can charge or she can charge that can be paid. That's it. That should be a market situation. That should not be a government situation. I'm a landlord in Arizona, and the government has nothing to do with what I charge for rent. Has no rhyme or reason in my rentals.
So when you hear people talking about fighting for rent control to get introduced in Arizona, what are your thoughts about that?
No, I would firmly disagree, because the market determines what I can charge. That's it.
What's the argument against the fact that wages have not even nearly increased as fast as rents have?
But have they? I mean, we just recently did a comparison on rents that were in 2012 compared to
2016.
today. Okay.
2016 in the state of Arizona, the cost of a 2-bed, 2-bath apartment actually stayed exactly the same.
Right. And has there been some wage increase between 2016 and 2024? Sure, there has been, right?
Right. Now there was a period of it where it spiked even higher.
Yes.
But it between
Again, the market,
2016 and 2024, they're the exact same level. Now we had there COVID happened. We had post-COVID where it just completely spiked, and then it's now come back to.
Right. So that's an anomaly, right? The COVID event, a pandemic event, is not something that happens every day. It was an anomaly. It was a black swan event, right?
Yeah.
So it's difficult to say based on anything to do with those 4 years. You almost have to take them out of the equation. So if that's the case, if you took them out of the equation, then rent stayed pretty well the same. Because I was charging my tenants in 2018, I'm still charging them the exact same amount, because I don't believe that I need to charge any more. It covers my nut. It gives me a little bit of profit, and I'm happy with that. I'm happy with the tenant.
I agree. I mean, I'm not one for a lot of government intervention. I think that you should be allowed to do with your property what you wish. It's interesting to me that you could own a home. Like, for instance, if I'm the owner of that mansion in Beverly Hills,
yes,
and I can't enter my own property. Somebody has entered my property illegally. They're living there illegally. They have an illegal lease. I'm obviously the one who's on title here to own. I'm on the deed. I did not sign the lease. I did not give anybody agency to sign this lease. This is completely fiction.
No, you feel like you want to burn the house down. You're just like, if I burn it down, I don't have to pay utilities. I'm insured, and I'll rebuild the house. Like, that's where your mind goes at that point. Like, how frustrated must you be if you were that owner of that property? And how frustrated must you be if you are helping solve a problem like homelessness, and you're being shut down because zoning, which is just an arbitrary law. Some arbitrary person sat down and said, I think this should be zoned like this and this should be zoned like, who says?
Right.
And
well, I had a very similar situation here. There's, and again, zoning had nothing to do with it, according to when we talked to the authorities, because, on my property here in LA, we're on the beach, but there was a parking underneath the building.
Okay.
We weren't enclosed. And somebody moved in to the area there, and that was fully open to the outside world, open to the elements. Somebody came in, they brought a mattress in, and they moved in. They brought a dog. They were plugging their phone into the power outlet that was in there. They were defecating right in the corner over there. And then when we called the police to have the person removed, the person said, they said I could stay here. And the police looked at us and said, he said that you said that he could stay here. I'm like, well, that's impossible. Nobody's been here for the last 60 days. We just came back to town, and this man is living here. So how do we get him out? You can't. So he has no lease. He doesn't need a lease. But it's private property. You're still going to need to sue him. So he gets to stay, yeah, and he gets to defecate down there, yeah, and he gets to have a dog there, yeah, and he gets to steal my electricity, yes. So there was absolutely no enforcement. But if you've got a co-living, they will come with the sheriff's office
and raid you and shut you down.
They will raid you and they'll shut you down. it's still completely like it's
Mind-boggling.
mind-boggling to me where the priorities are.
Mind-boggling.
Completely. Absolutely. And I can't even short-term rental this property because even though I'm on the beach and even though rent for a unit like this would cost you $12,000 a month, they call this a rent-controlled area. And so I'm not even allowed to do a short-term rental on this property to generate income from it when we're not here because it's a rent-controlled neighborhood. I don't understand how, if it's rent-controlled, right, it's waterfront homes. If you can't afford to live on the water, you should not live on the water. Right. I mean, I wasn't able to live here until I had the financial capacity to live here. I was coming to Los Angeles lots of time. I lived here for 5 years. I didn't live on the water because I couldn't afford to live on the water at the time. I lived where I could afford to live. And I wasn't crying about it and causing problems about it or, picketing or going to the city and asking for legislation to try to create controls for a rent that I could never actually afford. So even though this would rent for $10,000 to $12,000 a month, it's rent control.
So you have this great proposition that happened decades ago that said, we want to make sure that people aren't gouged and left homeless. And so this legislation came into force about rent control. And then it's a runaway train. It blossomed and grew into this monster where something like this property that's on the beach can't be rented out because it falls under the purview of rent control, right?
Do you think there should be a lobby group that landlords put together to try to
Oh my God, I love that idea. Yeah.
Push forward, more progressive solutions, not in a way that's just for the benefit of landlords, because you and I have been property managers for a long time. We care about all the people that have lived in our properties.
100%.
We've reduced rent for people. We've not charged rent for people.
Yep.
We've helped people in so many different situations. We've let people in with evictions, criminal records, let them split their deposits. There's been so many accommodations made for different individual circumstances. Again, depending on what someone's trying to do, we want to be as helpful as possible.
Right.
But there's nobody advocating for the rights of this type of business group. There's a hotel lobby, and the hotel lobby is the reason why so many different short-term rental laws have changed across the country. You think that it was private citizens that went after Airbnb in Los Angeles? No, it was the hotel lobby that went after Airbnbs in Los Angeles. They were losing business to short-term rentals, and so they banded together. They created a coalition and a lobby group, and they went and they fought to have things done. How would landlords organize?
I mean, I think that's in Canada, they have a landlord lobby. When we lived in the province of Saskatchewan, there was a landlord lobby. And we met every quarter. We had lunch together, and it was informal, but we discussed what was happening with legislation and if we needed any changes, and then we would pursue them.
So what do you think could be a starting point for that? How would you organize?
Geez, I don't know. But I think that's a phenomenal idea. I think that's probably going to have to happen, especially if the government is just deciding where they want to favor and where they want to disfavor property use, right? Because we're in a situation where we're tipping, we're like this. We're just teetering on this fence of affordability, of homelessness, of all the issues that are happening in our time frame.
Yeah.
And if we don't do something, I mean, boy, I think the landlords could have really used some help during COVID, when people just said, well, yeah, we get money from the government, but since we don't have to pay our rent, we're just not going to pay our rent. And we're just going to let it accumulate until you are able to evict us, which you can't do right now because the courts aren't in session.
Right.
So for 18 months, a lot of people just didn't pay rent.
Yeah, and I mean, that came back to bite a lot of people in the butt because they were now unable, because the eviction ultimately happened at the end. And now they're unable to rent another property. And I actually just saw a TikTok from somebody who was talking about being unable to rent because of an eviction that happened during COVID. And they now can't rent anywhere, but if you think about it, they were also getting the stimulus, and so they probably could have paid their rent, but they chose not to pay their rent. They chose not to pay their rent. And so they ended up getting evicted, and now they're having a very difficult time finding a place because no landlord wants them, because they've been proven to be the type of individual that will
not pay their rent.
They'll use the situation to their advantage regardless of what they what's the right thing to do. Right.
Sure.
And so, in those times, it's to the landlord's personal choice at that point, right? To say, okay, well, maybe I want to give this person another shot. Maybe we don't. Really just depends on the circumstance. But it's interesting, and I think it's a way deeper conversation that I think every community has to have, because when you look outside, it's human beings, it's people. Right? There's nothing worse than seeing a family or somebody having fallen on hard times who is sleeping outside, eating out of the garbage can. You and I walked the boardwalk this morning, and I probably counted a dozen people who were finding their breakfast in the garbage can this morning. Right? That was just what it was.
And it's not hard to believe that this could happen to many people, because I think a lot of people are just maybe 1 or 2 paychecks away from that situation. If you're renting and your landlord decides to sell their house, they're typically going to give you 30 days notice. And in 30 days, you now have to have the funds, and they're generally going to tell you just after you've paid your rent. So you have to find the funds for first month's security deposit and moving to leave in 30 days. And maybe you'll be able to stretch it out by not leaving, and you'll get evicted, and then the sheriff will come. But you've bought yourself maybe 15 or 20 days in the state of Arizona. That's all you've bought. And so now what?
Right.
What happens to you? You live in your car until you have to sell your car?
Well, I'm shifting gears a little bit now, because we've been talking about that. But, recently, you have a, how old's Diella?
20.
20-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
She moved out.
She did.
She was living on her
I
own.
want independence, and I want to live with my boyfriend.
The same things that you were saying. I don't know why we're kicking our kids out. You didn't really kick her out.
No, I
She
didn't.
made the
I
decision.
didn't want her to leave.
Yep.
She made the decision to leave, and then she found herself in a really unsanitary situation, right? So I said, well, there's a property. It's fairly priced. How about I give you the down payment for this property, and you cover that mortgage, and you want adult, then live like an adult. You have a job, and you pay the mortgage. Well, that didn't work. 2 years of me paying the mortgage. And I said, listen, I can't do this anymore. And then her having the epiphany that she wants to go to school now. So she is living on a property that's on my property, right? So I'm a big person that says, hey, use every square inch of your property to build more housing. If I could fill my pool in, I'd fill my pool in.
Put a unit in there?
I would, 100%. I'd put another unit in there. I mean, I don't understand. Water doesn't need a house, and neither do your cars. People need a house. People need a house. People need somewhere to sleep. If you decided you wanted to come and live with me, I'd fill my pool tomorrow, and I'd build you a house on top of my pool.
Funny. I don't think your neighbors would be
my neighbors know who I am, so they just let me be now.
Well, that's the crazy lady with all the structures on, on her property.
Yeah.
But she's going to university. She's going to go to college. Mm-hmm. How did that decision come? Because I know we've talked about it in the past.
Yeah.
Do you think it's the right thing?
I mean, she really tried. Like, she was, I think I want to get into aesthetics, which doesn't require a college degree. It requires some trade school training. And she started it and said, yeah, no, I don't like to touch people. So that's out. And then she said, well, maybe I want to do digital marketing. And you were really helpful in getting her an internship with digital marketing. She realized, boy, I really don't like doing this either. And so she sort of went through I'd rather do, I want to do all of those, and then said, no, this is not going to work for me. I need more structure.
So you think structure is something that's really important for people of that age. So, what do you think right now that you've gone through this with your kid moving out, having a couple of years on their own, and then coming back home and finally going to the college after a few years. Do you think college is still the way to go?
I think it is now for her, only because she wants to do something that I think she wants to pursue a degree in law. So I think you need to go to college to be able to be a lawyer. If she said to me, I want to go to college and I just want to take like an ambiguous number of sociology and psychology courses, I'd say, well, what's the end game in that? I think so. Every one of your children you have to look at individually. I have an 8-year-old son as well, who I would be very shocked if he didn't go directly into college to become
I mean, he's
some
almost
type of
taking
engineer,
college courses already.
right?
So
So it really depends on the child and where that child wants to be in their life. I don't think it should be a force. It's not a compulsion. Higher education is not a compulsion, but doing something with your life should have you in that mindset of where am I going with my life, right?
yeah, I agree. So with all the things that you've done, we've made plenty of money, lost plenty of money, built a beautiful company. It's humming along. You've got a great business going with your property management and helping people get into the co-living investments, flipping houses still whenever there's an opportunity out there. What do you think the biggest thing that you've taken from all that, from on a personal level, for the way that your mind works? Looking at all of the things that you've had to overcome and get through to be able to succeed.
Jeez, I don't know. I think for me, I've realized when I turned 50 years old, right? I turned 50 years old a few years ago. I realized that what matters the most to me is to wake up and be happy. What I'm doing for my job has nothing to do with whether or not I'm happy. Because I go about my job, I go about my business and whatever I have to take care of that day with the same happiness or unhappiness, it doesn't matter to me. What makes me happy and feel content is that my family is unified. When we were doing the television show, it was probably the most stressful because we had, time frames that we had to work within. But I got to get up and hang out with you every day. And so that made my job happy. I was happy. I was like, yay, I'm going to see Jamil. So when I think about our future and doing communal, really working together in communal living, I'm happy. I'm excited. Probably more excited than I've been in a long time. Even when we had our asses handed to us and we found ourselves in one house together living in Encino, California, I was happy. I was fine. We were all together. So for me, that unification, that being united as a family is really all that matters.
Yeah, it's not about the money, right?
It's
about
not.
who you got around you.
That's exactly right. It's not about the money. It's not about what we're eating. It's not about what we're wearing or what we're doing and what's adorning us.
Well, it's a little bit about what you're wearing because, I don't know if you guys have ever seen Rahima on a job site. She's the only person I know who wears Hermes loafers to construction sites.
Well, to be fair, the Hermes loafer has an arch support that's very comfortable for me. So I wear them.
Why do you dress like that to construction sites?
Because it's just the way I dress. I've dressed the same way since I was in junior high school. This is the way I've always dressed myself, and I've always, had a little boutique job or something that helped facilitate how I wanted to dress. And most of my clothes are very old. I keep my clothes for 15, 20, 25 years.
That's great. No, I think you look good on a job site. I'm sure that all the workers get a kick out of it too.
Okay.
Oh, there's our boss in a pantsuit. Oh, well, wrapping up here, it's a question I ask everybody who's on this show, and I'm interested to hear your answer on it. What do you think we're all doing here? What's the reason we're here?
Geez, I don't know. I guess we're here to just find some more moments of happiness than unhappiness, and facilitating other people's happiness. Making sure that we take care of one another. We're all here as God's creation. So if we extend a hand, extend a smile, get somebody through a day.
Just passing time, helping people be happy. Yeah. I think so. I think if you can live your day and make somebody smile, you did a good job.
I think so. I think that's really the key, right? Is making sure that everybody around you is in a good spot.
Yeah. Yeah. Amen. Love it. Well, I love you so much, Rahima. Thanks for being on this. Guys, if you want to learn more about what Rahima's doing in the co-living space, there is great opportunity for you there. So how do people reach you? What's your socials?
Jeez.
You don't even know.
I don't know.
The real
there you
Rahima B
go.
on Instagram. I
It's
know
probably
her
not the
Instagram.
best way to get a hold of me.
What's the best way to get a hold
I
of
mean,
you?
through you, I think is probably contact this guy, and he'll call me and say, "Hey, contact this person," because I really am not that attuned with social media.
There you got it, guys. Reach out to me if you want to reach out to her. If you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave Rahima a comment. Tell her what you think about her outfits. We'll see you next time. How cool was that? Always fun to hang out with my sister, and really excited about what we've got going on in the world of co-living. And if you've got an opinion on this whole housing situation that we're dealing with in the United States, I mean, I can see it from so many different sides. I've been in a situation where we couldn't afford rent. I've been in situations where we could afford rent. I've been in situations where I'm the guy charging rent. I've been in all of the buckets. And so I can see it from many, many perspectives. But what's your perspective? I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Leave myself one, leave one for Rahima. And if you haven't already liked the video, subscribe to this channel because it's a good one. Later.